Hey, Roger here, and I guess you've noticed that I am sporting my new shirt. Got this for Christmas from one of my girls. You know, I have 4 girls, and they're always trying to keep me kind of fashion, up to date. Well, this is a new shirt from, are you ready for this? Lululemon. Now, I didn't know. I thought Lululemon was just all women's clothing. I didn't know. But apparently they have men's clothing because this is a men's shirt. And so I just want to let you know I had my new Lululemon shirt on. So anyway. Hey, you know what? We all know people who are just a little bit too religious. You know, they got all the religious talk. They got way too many religious signs and their scriptures mounted all over their house. You know, too many religious bumper stickers. They got all the religious jewelry, and they're just a little bit kind of over-churched. You know, they're just always doing stuff for the church, trying to do stuff for God. Well, let me tell you a big secret. The cross killed religion. People say, what? Absolutely. The Bible's very clear about this. I'm going to show you this. The crucifixion of Jesus on the cross killed religion. Now, here's what's ironic. People today seem to think the cross is a religious symbol. And it's actually not a religious symbol. It is actually the symbol that Jesus killed religion, killed that whole system. That whole system, if you got to do stuff for God, you got to please God, you got to do all these things and follow all these rules and laws and all that died at the cross with Jesus. And so we're going to talk about that. Now there again, religion is all about the stuff you do for God. That's really what the law, the Old Testament law, was all about, stuff you did for God. Now, one of the most interesting things in the Bible is what happened at the moment that Jesus died. Now, there were several crazy things that happened. The Bible says that everything got dark in the middle of the day. There was an earthquake. The Bible even says that some people came out of their tombs and walked around town. But here's another really significant thing that happened. Now, the temple was the center of religion in that day. And in the middle of the temple, there was a room. They called it the most holy place. It was a room that was 30 feet wide, 30 feet deep, 30 feet high. It was a cube. Now, this room was the absolute most religious, most holy place to the Jewish people in that day. And what they would do is one day a year, they would lift up this curtain that separated the holy place, the most holy place, from the rest of the temple. Now, this wasn't any ordinary curtain. This thing was like 7 layers thick. It was made of animal skins, and it was heavy. One day a year, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the high priest would go in there. Now, it took 4 men to lift this curtain up. History tells us they would lift this thing up, and the high priest would go in there. Now, it was so sacred that if something happened to the high priest, that they believed that the high priest had sin in his life, that God may just take his life, may kill him right there. Now, there's no evidence that ever happened, but that was the belief. And they would put bells on the garment of the priest, the high priest. And so if they didn't hear any jingling going on in there, they just assumed he was dead. And so to keep from going in to get him, they had already tied a cord around his ankle. And so if there's no jingling going on, they would just lift up that curtain a little bit and drag him out, And so this was a big deal. This is a place that just was of utmost religious significance in that day. That was the center of religion. Well, at the moment Jesus died, the Bible says that the veil, that big thick curtain that separated the most holy place from the rest of the temple, was ripped in half from top to bottom. The Bible is very clear about that. Not from bottom to top. It was not the earthquake that did it. It was something else that did it, and it was God that did that. God just ripped that thing in two just like that. And so that was a sign to them that something was big time changing in the way they related to God. So from that point on, a lot of people got the message that the religious system was over. Now, there's an incredible verse in Colossians chapter 2, verse 14 that says very clearly this. It says that this is the second point. It says that Jesus canceled, now listen to this. This is out of an English Standard Version. All versions say it kind of the same way, but it says that Jesus canceled the record of debt that stood against us with its legal demands. He set aside, nailing it to the cross. So bang, Jesus killed the whole system of religious demands. That's what he's talking about when he says legal demands. He's talking about legal demands under the old system of the law. Killed that, nailed it to the cross. So while we thought maybe, we knew Jesus was getting nailed to the cross, he became a sacrifice for us. But not only that was happening, but Jesus was doing his own nailing. He nailed religion to the cross. So when he died, religion died. Dead, slayed, wasted, expired, bought the farm. Religion is over at the cross. And one reason we know that is from what it says specifically in Colossians chapter 2 and verse 14. Now, number 3, the Bible says very clearly in Hebrews chapter 8 verse 13 that Jesus made the first system obsolete. That's the term that's used in that verse in Hebrews 8:13. Obsolete. In other words, it says it was gone, vanishing away is what it says. Now, I know what obsolete means, and you do too. There's some things that we know, particularly some of us older people, we had years ago that we don't have anymore. For instance, 8-track tape, gone. It was killed by the cassette, which was killed by the CD, which was killed by digital downloads. But there's nobody uses 8-track. 8-track tape is a big old clunky thing. You had to stick it in this big old slot in the car. Gone. Gone. Not coming back. Now, if you take today, try to use an 8-track tape, you couldn't even find an 8-track tape player. A rotary phone, same way. You had that dial, rotary, obsolete, gone. VCR, gone. Whole bunch of things that used to be really popular and at the time were cutting edge are now obsolete. And that's exactly what Jesus did with religion. He made it obsolete. The whole system, the whole way of doing things, to have to do stuff to please God, gone. Dead, abolished, gone. Now, number 4, did you notice in the book of Acts? Now, the book of Acts is kind of a book in the Bible that gives us a little bit of the history of how the church got started, how it got going. Well, you notice when those people in Acts who made up the church, the church is just people. And so when the people got onto the message that, hey, Jesus gave his life for them on the cross, he died, he resurrected, paid the full price, the whole thing, paid in full for their sins, their salvation. Jesus did it all for them, not just part of it. That was the message that energized the church in the early days of the church in the book of Acts. Notice, they didn't care about anything religious. Notice in the book of Acts, nobody cares about, fancy buildings or ornate decor, priestly garments, liturgy. They didn't even have really church schedules per se. There was no rituals. They didn't care about any of that because they knew, they got the point. The gospel, the good news of what Jesus had done for them, killed all of that. And so today, the gospel is not about religion. It's really a jailbreak from religion. That's what the gospel is. That's what Jesus did on the cross for us. Today, it's not about religion. It's just about a relationship that you have with God through what Jesus has done for you. That's what it's about now. So anyway, how about that?